1045 The Team, your home for Yankees baseball, and thanks to our friends at Techie's Fire and Water Restoration. Your best way back to normal. Visit them online, tefirewater.com. Your home for Buster Olney. Buster, the Yankees have done the unthinkable and lost back-to-back games. I'm pushing the panic button. I don't think they're going to do anything this year.
In Texas, against one of baseball's worst teams. What's the problem? Time to blow up the plan, trade everybody away, start to rebuild, start to tank.
Usually you top me off the ledge. Why?
No, I obviously am kidding. Look, there are, I think with CC Sabathia, and we saw this last night, I mean, he certainly had enough run support. CC would be the first guy to say to win the game, and he did not perform well. David Robertson had a tough day, and in CC Sabathia's case, I think he's always going to be a question mark because of where he is physically. There was a time last year where his knee was bothering him, his right knee was bothering him so much. There were some questions within the organization about, how is he going to push forward? Is he going to work through it? And eventually he did. But that's always kind of going to hang out there, I think, for CC for the rest of his career. And you wonder, you see a start like that, and you wonder, okay, is it going to lead to another one, or is he going to get it back and be back to as good as he was early this season?
Buster, Yankee fans beat me up a little bit. I said something that I thought was pretty realistic. Let's see what you think. I think this team is built to win regular season games, but they've got to do something about their starting pitching if they want to get past Boston and Houston in the playoffs.
I don't agree.
Look, God, I'm never right.
I think in this day and age, and we saw it last winter, and sorry to bring up bad memories for you, but the Astros, right? You probably would have said halfway through that series, you know what, huge advantage for the Yankees because the Astros don't have a closer. I think the conventional roles have been thrown out. I think it really comes down to, finding a collection of pitching that's good enough. And let's say, for example, that they did get into a series against the Red Sox or the Astros. They have so much depth in their bullpen they can make up for that, and which is why I think as we get closer to the trade deadline, that Brian Cashman, if there's not a palatable, really interesting starting pitcher out there, I think he'll do what he did last year and really load up on the bullpen, which is why, an early guy I put on your radar as someone to watch for is Kelvin Herrera, the Kansas City Royals. The Royals are definitely going to be sellers, and I think if Brian can't find the starting pitcher that he's interested in, looking for, then it wouldn't surprise me if he'd just decide, you know what, we're going to go 6-7 deep with unbelievable arms in the bullpen.
So they would rather go that way or potentially go that way in comparison to a starting pitcher like a Cole Hamels?
Well, Cole Hamels, and look, he threw the ball well the other night, but we have to remember, Cole Hamels is 34, and last year he had a 4.2 ERA, and he's making a lot of money. And if the Rangers were to say, look, we need 2 top prospects for a rental, that's not really Brian's way. I suspect that if, in fact, he does digs deep into the starting pitching market, that it's going to be more for someone like he targeted last summer in Jose Quintana, somebody who's controllable for 3 or 4 years, someone like and this is pure speculation, like a Chris Archer, like a Michael Fulmer of the Tigers, someone that he's going to be around, because I just don't see Brian paying retail price for someone who's only going to be around for a couple months.
So, Buster Olney with us right now. How about a little Manny Machado in my life?
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
First off, we know, last winter when Manny Machado's name hit the market, there was some talk about, the Orioles would be interested in talking with the Yankees, and they'd have. I don't think there's any chance when push would come to shove that Peter Angelos, the owner of the Orioles, someone who I covered for a couple of years, I know well, would ever trade Manny Machado to the Yankees. Just don't see it happening. Even if, in my opinion, they should absolutely be open-minded to it. Heck, Manny's a free agent anyway, and if your best deal is with the Yankees, then you should make it. I just don't think Peter would ever do that.
Buster Olney with us right now, 104.5 The Team. Listen, it's kind of a joke just to mess with gods on that, because I don't know how much better this team can get, especially with Gleyber Torres coming up and just smacking the cover off the ball. Crazy.
I talked to a Yankee staffer yesterday who said, look, this guy, we knew he was great, but he's even better than we thought. I mean, the power that he's demonstrating, and if he was hitting a bunch of wall scrapers, 335 feet down the line, then you'd think, well, it's just an aberration, but he's hitting the ball 420 feet. He's got some of the, I think, average longest average home run distance in baseball. and it's remarkable. I mean, the guy is an absolute stud, and you always go back to, for me, what Cubs people told me the day after they traded him to the Yankees. Brian picked the right guy. The Yankees targeted the right guy in that Aroldis Chapman trade.
But as amazing as he is, he takes on another amazing rookie this weekend, Shohei Ohtani. Who's having a better season right now, Ohtani or Torres?
Man, and to me, it's going to come down to those two for Rookie of the Year, and I do think that Ohtani is going to have the sort of the new and different advantage in the voting because no one's ever done what he's been doing and doing very successfully. Ohtani last night, he got a two-run single that allowed the Angels to tie the game, and at that point, he's hitting .305. He has an ERA of 3.35. He's stole his first base last night. He's incredible. And I talked to someone with the Angels last week and about Ohtani, and I see all the stuff that we talked about during the wintertime, all the concern about how can you build a schedule for him, how can you make it work. I feel like that all of that conversation was completely stupid in a way because once we now get a first look at Ohtani and understand what an absolute incredible athlete that he is and his ability to make adjustments, you don't worry about the schedule. You just put him out there. And whether he's a hitter or whether he's running the bases or whether he's pitching, he's an elite player. He's an elite talent. I suspect that he probably, if he stays healthy, I think he'll win Rookie of the Year.
Buster Olney brought to you by Tech East Fire and Water Restoration right here on 104.5 The Team.
The New York Mets sign Jose Bautista. What does this move mean for the Mets this season?
That they're desperate and they're trying to fill in a hole and they're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. Look, 2-3 years ago you had scouts saying that Bautista couldn't hit major league fastballs anymore. The Braves got a first-hand look at that when they tried him at third base and it didn't work out. J.P. Ricciardi acquired him for the Toronto Blue Jays, and J.P. now works in the Mets front office, and I'm sure based on that relationship and understanding that they're going to face some lefties, they can try him out, but this is obviously just a short-term fix and trying to buy time. And the way the division is trending right now with the Phillies and the Braves growing and the Nationals, beginning to get some guys back healthy, it's certainly not a good development for the Mets.
Buster Olney with us right now, and Buster, another player gets popped with an 80-game suspension. Wellington Castillo. What exactly is going on with Major League Baseball? Are we back into a dark PED era?
Well, I'd say this, and next time I see Wellington, I will say it to him. I really like him. He's a good dude. But when Wellington's suspension was announced by the White Sox, Wellington put out a statement and said, "I did it." And I did something stupid, and it's entirely my fault, and he didn't make any excuses. Thank God. Because how many times have we read the dog ate my homework excuse? That said, I had a conversation last week with Mark Teixeira and with David Ross in the green room before Sunday Night Baseball on Sunday, and we were talking about the common response from other players when these guys get popped, and it's always like, for example, in Seattle, after Robinson Cano got nailed. Well, Robbie's our brother. We're sad, we're disappointed, but we're moving forward. And I asked those guys, I'm like, that reaction has always surprised me because in so many cases with these players, they've made a decision to cheat rules that were put in place by their union brethren. Like they have just made decisions to cheat and gain a competitive advantage against other players and perhaps take a job, perhaps get a contract that might have been more deserved, some other player might have deserved. And so sort of this benign response, reflexive, well, we'll welcome him back, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I mentioned that back in the night during the 95 strike, how replacement players were used, and guys like Rick Reed of the Mets, as that strike ended, other players wouldn't talk to those guys. They wouldn't let them in the union meetings. They wouldn't let them share in the licensing money. They were furious. And so I asked those guys, how come there isn't that response from other players when we have these situations pop up? And Mark and David talked about how, a media relations person will come through the clubhouse after PED suspension. Hey, everybody, we need to support. A coach will say something like that. Meanwhile, privately, other players are seething, and yet they have statements of support. And my suggestion was, look, if you guys are offended and you want to make change, you want to affect change, put some peer pressure out there. First meeting in spring training, have a CC Sabathia, Justin Verlander stand up and say, hey, I want to let all you guys know, if anybody in here gets popped for PEDs, you are on your own. We are not going to support you publicly. You will be left to answer for it because you've made the decision to cheat everybody else in this room.
I mean, that makes sense, especially when they've got the, like, I Did It Clean campaign. Like, I remember the big problem, they were all worried about what was going to happen when A-Rod got in the locker room with Brett Gardner because he does the I Did It Clean campaign. Like,
yep.
What you're saying makes sense. Do you really think anybody has the guts to do it, though?
We've seen a team do it. The San Francisco Giants back in 2012, if you guys remember, Melky Cabrera got popped for PEDs, and he immediately went in, cleaned out his locker before the other Giants players got in the clubhouse, and he never went and spoke to them. And the other players were furious. In part, Buster Posey is known as a no-nonsense guy, he's a leader of that team. And so what you got from other Giants players was, look, this is not acceptable, and we're not going to accept his explanation to the degree that late in that year he could have come back under the old rules and played in the postseason. The other Giants players said, no, we don't want him. And if all players knew that that was going to be the reaction, that the peers would effectively turn their back on them, and I'm not even saying that they have to ostracize them. I'm just saying that, no statements of support, don't welcome him into union meetings. I think that would make a difference. As we talk about how can we increase the risks for players who are trying to make the decision about whether or not to be users.
Buster, where are you at this weekend?
We are at Wrigley Field. We got the Giants against the Cubs.
Man, that's another great series. Madison Bumgarner finished the season as a Giant?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that speculation that I threw out to you guys, it was nothing more than speculation. I'm sure next time I see Bruce Bochy, who I've known forever, Giants manager is going to tell me it was a really stupid column.
But see, that's why we love you, Buster. You admit it. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think it's a stupid column, but he'll tell me it was.
All right. Okay, that's why we love you. You're open to the criticism even though you don't agree with it.
Heck yeah.
There it is.
Coach and I played a rec basketball league going years back. Whatever he's got, I'll take.
Buster, man, we appreciate you. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
See you guys.